I press Control F5 within Visual Studio to start the program to execute. So once again, it goes as far as this prompt, and now it's waiting on this input, and it tells me how many times to play. So let me try again the same input 3, and you can see that it's printing. Then I say 0 and exit, and you can see that my game session looks like this right now. I'll show you. This is how it looks like. Right, so this is very much expected. This is good thing, I think, right? So we have a series of pings as expected 3 times, and interestingly, originally there was a loop, which was the while loop, which was essentially controlling the number of shots and look like this. This time there is no loop. There is only a series of function calls. Ping is the original function call that passes to the function the number of shots to play. Right? So here this number is accepted, and we check whether it's 0. If it's 0, we safely get out. Otherwise, we do the work and we continue calls to do the same type of work by calling the same function. Let me do a quick demonstration in a debug session. Right? So if we go to debug and say start debugging, actually, wait a minute before I start debugging, let's have a breakpoint added to this line so that we can observe actually what's happening inside the program. Let's take a look. I go to start debugging session right here, start debugging, or press F5. The program starts. The console window opens. My debugging environment is still loading. And says how many times to play. I enter 3 like we did all time long and hit enter. So you see that in automatic variable display right here on the left side and at the bottom, the friendly debugger shows me that my shot count is indeed 3, which is a result of this input. Very good. To trace this call, I will press F11, or you can use this toolbar to say step into this function call. Right? Remember, this little indicator right here shows that this is the next thing to happen in the program. When you have this line, a breakpoint, it stops before doing it. So it shows you, okay, this is the next thing to happen. So I press F11 to step into, and you see that my control naturally goes into function named ping, and I start executing it. So again, inside this function, you see that the variable shot count still contains the value 3. Nothing changed. I will press F10 to step over this. F10 is stepping over. Of course, count is not 0, so we do not return. Instead, we're doing the printing. So I press F10 again to step over, and if you look at my console window, the first ping value now got printed. Now it is time to invoke this function again, recursively. Oh, I misspelled this. It should say recursion. So we do it again. We trace into this function call. By the way, before we trace into it, is a very helpful display view in the call that is called a call stack. By the way, if you don't see it, you can go to debug windows and you see all the debug windows. A call stack is here. If you accidentally close this and you need to make it visible again, just check out this list of debug windows under debug menu in the main menu. Okay, so I see it. So you can see that here the system invoked main, and then the system, the program invoked ping, and I'm inside ping, and I'm about to make this call again. So I press F11 again to trace into this call, right? So right here we are re-entering ping, but this time, if I switch to call stack, you see that ping was called twice, right? Now main first call into ping, then the second call into ping, and we're now entering ping again. So I press, but now observe the value of the shot count. Now it became 2, because in the previous function call right here, it actually got decremented by 1. So now it became 2. So I press F10, F10, F10. You see that this time the second ping was printed, and I'm back debugging my code, and now this is 2, so it's about to get decremented, and then the function call will take place. So I press F11, I re-enter the function. Now the shot count is 1. It's still not 0, so I still do not return. But observe that I had main on the stack of calls, then call ping 1, 2, 3 times, and now I'm looking at the third time calling it. Press F10, F10, F10. So the third ping message is printed as expected in the console, and I'm making call into ping again. The fourth time is about to make the same call, but this time shot count is 1. So of course, if it gets decremented, I press F11 again to step into it, and so this time the fourth call is on the stack. And we observe right here that finally shot count became 0. So it's about time that we notice that it's 0 and begin to return from our calls. So what we do is that, again, I will press F11 to trace through this execution, press F11, and if you watch closely here, right, we're about to return from this call right here, because we're about to execute this return statement. So I press F11 again, and I exit out of it, and you see, if you notice here, we just return from a call. And of course, I keep pressing my F11 and I return. Just watch what happens over here. We keep returning from these calls down here. If you observe what happens on the call stack, right? So we just keep returning from these calls, from our ping calls. F11, 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 F11. Finally, only main function remains on the stack, and we are done with executing this series of calls. And once again, this is the display. So essentially what got printed here is 3 messages, right? What got printed here is these 3 messages, ping, 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 as a result of individual function calls which were performed recursively. Typically, when I went through a debugging session and I have seen everything I needed to see, I do not struggle to continue with this. I just say debug, stop debugging, or shift F5, because this is fine. We don't have to continue this debugging session, because really that was the observation to make about it.